Today we have four speakers. So from um, MIT, Wellesley, Stanford, and Waterloo, who will be sharing a little bit about their experience at their university and also as a woman in STEM. So first, a little bit about our organization. So we work to eliminate negative stereotypes surrounding women in STEM, and we try to bridge the gender gap between men and women in STEM field. And we have introductory courses in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and we'll be hosting them throughout the summer for grades 4 to 8. And our QR code is below. So this links to our website, so feel free to scan it and just check out our website. So we're going to do just a quick wave of the panelists. Elaine, unfortunately, is not here right now. She will be here in a couple of minutes. But so we're gonna go to Sherry first. Sherry, if you can give a little wave. Yeah, so she studied math and comp sci, double majored at Wellesley College, and she just recently graduated. And Elaine, who's not here, she is double majoring at MIT in math and electrical engineering, computer science with a focus in economics. And Jane, if you can give a little wave. Jane is studying financial analysis and risk management at the University of Waterloo. And Serena, and she is studying computer science and going into pre-med at Stanford. So just a quick overview of what's going to happen today. So first, each of the panelists will introduce themselves, tell us a little more about their major, their year, and how they decided to start in the STEM field, and really what is their passion and how they found it. And then secondly, we have a couple of panel questions prepared for our panelists, and they will take turns answering individually. And then thirdly, we'll go to audience questions. So in Zoom, there's the Q&A function that should be found at the bottom of your screen. So if you guys have any questions, please just type it in there and we will answer these once we get to the audience questions. And then fourthly, we'll be having a kind of breakout room time at the end of the seminar. We will spend 15 minutes and each of the speakers will be in a breakout room individually. And if you are interested about their particular experience, their major, or their university, feel free to pop in their breakout room and ask them more personalized questions. Okay, let's go to Sherry. If you can please introduce yourself to us.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Ella. Hi, everyone. My name is Sherry. I just graduated from Wellesley, as Ella introduced, with a math and computer science double degree. And Wellesley is a historically women's college. It's also a liberal arts college. And during my college career, I did like 4 internships, technical internships, and 1 research experience. And as shown on here, I am starting work in 2 weeks at Netflix as a software engineer, which I'm really excited for. And to give a little introduction to why I chose STEM, I guess I always just really liked math, especially the intricate logic and problem solving aspects of it. It feels like I'm really challenging myself and it stimulated my curiosity. And originally I went into Wellesley with the intention of like math and chemistry. I really liked chemistry in Appleby. It was like something that I really loved doing, also problem solving aspects. And then when I joined Wellesley, I realized that the world of software engineering was like starting to boom, like everyone's getting into it. And I was like, oh, it'd be really useful to get a CS major. And what's nice about liberal arts college is that it's like you have a lot of freedom in what you major in and what classes you take. So I was able to double major in that. And I would say when I realized my passion was like really early. Well, in middle school, there was like this time where we were doing this challenging math question. And when I solved it, I felt like so much dopamine. And I was just like, oh, this is like what I want to do. And yeah, I also did contests at Appleby, and they were just really really fun. So I decided to go into STEM. And my favorite part is just like you have a lot of freedom in what you explore. In math, after you take like the fundamental classes you want, you can explore like different kinds of like fields. So in my last semester, I did a course on cryptography, which was also like kind of connected to my CS major, and that was really cool, like seeing the applications of what you learned. And now a little bit about why I chose Wellesley, being a historically women's college, and it's also a liberal arts education. I think the aspect of liberal arts education is that you can have really small classes and you have a lot of freedom in like what courses you want to take. I know like Appleby is like 20 to 30 people or even less, if I'm remembering this wrong, in a class. And I really like that aspect because you can get really close with your teachers and it's like more personalized experience. It's more interactive. And having that at my college was really nice. I became friends with a lot of the professors who were really inspiring, and it's really great to hear about like how they got where they are. And yeah, that's definitely one aspect. And also like being able to pick classes outside your field because like each major has a certain number of classes you have to take. Beyond that, that's like all free. Like you can take whatever you want. I took like a history class recently, and I took logic and philosophy, and that was really fun. It's kind of like simplification of math if you guys are into that. Really fun class. And in terms of the historically women's college aspect, I think it really provides like an empowering and supportive learning environment. So people can choose to pursue their academic and professional aspirations without like traditional gender biases and limitations. We have higher rates of female students studying STEM and really nurtures like women's achievements in traditionally male-dominated fields. Everyone is super supportive. They want to see you succeed in these fields. There's a lot of strong mentorship programs, and oh my gosh, the alumni and networking opportunities are endless. In second year, I was applying for internships, and like they would make this Excel sheet of like a bunch of people who either work at those companies or intern at those companies who can give you referrals, and they're happy to do it for a stranger, another student at Wellesley, and that was something that like really opened my eyes. And just a lot of emphasis on women empowerment, which I'm so therefore, and yeah, so that's just a little introduction about me. Next to Elaine.
Yes.
Hi y'all, sorry for coming in a couple minutes late. I had to run from another meeting. Hello, my name's Elaine. Nice to meet you all. I use she, series pronouns. I am a rising senior at MIT studying math and computer science, with a concentration in economics. I don't know what background is. The reason I chose STEM, I don't think there was ever a time that I wasn't interested in like STEM. It was always very cool to me, but I think now that I think um now that I reflect on my childhood and like how things happen, I'm starting to think it makes a lot of sense. Like I enjoy the quantitative type of thinking. Like I always think putting a number on a thing makes a lot of sense. Um and I enjoy the systematic type of thinking, and this goes a long way into many areas and domains in STEM. I guess I answered both questions why I chose STEM and when I realized my passion for STEM. I think this really like I started realizing this more as I talked to more people, because before you like talk to more people about how they feel about subjects, you would always think everybody, at least I always thought everybody is like me. And then I would talk to people and like realize, oh, like these people get some of the other things that I don't get much more easier, and maybe like that thing isn't for me. And you also think this is for I would also think this for myself, like this thing like comes very intuitive to me, but not so much to other people. So maybe this is where my niche is. So this is something that I find really helpful. My favorite part about my major, um, wow, this is difficult. Um, I think the reasons that I enjoy math and computer science is more so that I enjoy the type of thinking that I use in studying these subjects. I am like less industry oriented. So I think less about like how useful this is in the real world. A lot of things that I study has absolutely no use in the real world, but I still think they're really cool, and I can sit down and think a lot, spend a lot of time thinking about that. I think that's an indicator that something that I enjoy. If I do have to pick a favorite part of my major, I would say how broad it is. Both math and computer science are incredibly broad fields that you can carve out very different career path. Like in computer science, for example, like there are people studying decisions, people studying like AI, people studying computer systems, studying like programming languages, studying like just to name a few. Like these fields almost completely never intersect. Um, and I believe it caters to a lot of different interests, and I think that's something really cool about computer science. I'll pass it on to the next person in line. I believe that's Jane.
Okay, thank you, Elaine.
Yeah, so hi everyone, my name is Jane. I'm currently a second-year student studying at University of Waterloo, and I studied mathematics and financial analysis and risk management, so-called farm, and my school calls me farmers. A little bit background about myself. I took the IB program around the GTA area, and so let's go to the first question. Why did I choose STEM? So I was a sci-fi reader when I was young, so they always put scientists and engineers and mathematician with really good lighting. So it always sound really cool to become like one of them at a really young age. But personally, math had never been something that's too easy or that comes as naturally as for others for me. So it comes with a lot of practice and exercising and a lot of asking questions. So I think my why did I choose STEM? Because it's really hard, it's really difficult, and the process of learning math, it really changed me as a person. So I believe that choosing STEM will be in the long run a very good a journey, like a really good makeover. So that's why I chose STEM. The favorite part about my major, my favorite part of my major is also what I like about my school the most. So University of Waterloo, it's located in Waterloo, and we have 3 terms a year. Right now it's summer, but I am still studying at my school, and I'm going to my first co-op job around September. So I really do enjoy the combination of studying and working at an industry. So I think it will really, first of all, allows you to have consecutive learning terms. For example, I studied for an entire year by now, and then that really allowed me to focus on what I'm studying. And then next term, I will be going into a real setting where I can actually apply what I learned. In the process, I can see what I like, what I don't like, and then really have a comparison, and also to test what I've learned, whether they are solid in a sense. And the flexibility as well as the how hardcore the math is in our school. So it's really different from what I learned in high school. But although I'm more in a finance field, but I still have to take as much math and computer science course as the pure math and computer science kids have to. So I am really challenging my math skill here. But also I have the flexibility to take courses outside of my major. So that's something really cool. Yeah, I guess that's all the questions for now. I'll pass it on to Serena.
Okay, thank you, Jane.
Awesome. Thanks, Ella. Hi, everyone. I'm Serena. I'm currently a rising senior at Stanford. Apologies in advance if my Wi-Fi gets really spotty. My home network isn't that great, but do let me know if you guys miss anything I said. So I'm currently majoring in computer science at Stanford while also being pre-med. And this allows me to explore the intersection of medicine and computer science. So like CS, like computational biology, which is really awesome. And so the way I got into STEM is a bit different, because when I was a young kid, I didn't really have this sort of idea that I wanted to do STEM. It was more of like seeing the world around me, watching my parents, code because they were software engineers, and then also seeing like people around me working as medical professionals, which got me really interested in biology, like their love and service for caring for other people. And so throughout high school, I was really interested in learning about biology and how you can like pursue medicine as a career. And then after I got into Stanford, I sort of had this realization that everyone there was doing all other kinds of STEM. Like this opened up a world of possibilities that you could go into. And one particular thing that everyone at Stanford was excited about was obviously computer science. And so I got sort of caught in that CS bubble, and then I switched my major to computer science. But what I wanted to say is that at Stanford, I've explored a lot of different career paths. I started off, like I mentioned, pre-med, and then I switched to computer science and did software engineering. I then tried venture capital, so dabbled a little bit in finance, and then I switched back to pre-med. And then I'm now working on AI in biology. So looking at computational models and doing work in that area, research in that area for med school. So yeah, feel free to ask me any questions about any of these different fields that I've worked in. But in general, what I love about computer science, so my major currently, is that really the possibilities are kind of endless for computer science, because like in general, you can, like, if you really put your mind to it, you can build anything, because computer science right now is really accessible. Like there's a lot of things that are open source, and there's a lot of really easy ways to get building. And so that's like the one thing I love, which is like you're not really hindered by a lot of very technical like bureaucratic stuff. You can just get started, get building, and it's very hands-on, and that's why I really, really enjoy it. And then I just wanted to mention at Stanford, I've been really fortunate to see like a lot of really amazing women in STEM organizations. Like there's Women in SWE. There's a bunch of organizations that support different like diversities, like including gender, other types of diversities in all these sorts of like underrepresented people in STEM. And so it's been really great seeing the support there. I know Sherry mentioned that like at Wesley, they have like, people giving like newer grads or newer undergrads references to like really cool big tech companies. We had that at Stanford too. Support network, the alumni network, is really amazing. And so it's really like positive seeing a lot of people at Stanford, also women, just doing like really cool stuff with STEM. Awesome. Ella, did I pass this back to you?
Yes, thank you so much. Okay, let's move on to the panel questions that we have prepared beforehand. So we're going in alphabetical order by first name. So Sherry, I'll leave it to you.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ella. So in terms of this question, how I was involved with STEM in high school till how I was in the past 4 years. When I went to Appleby, I took the CS classes just to explore like if I was interested in it. My parents were also like in tech, and I was like, oh, like this seems like it'd be super useful. And like I took some math contests, but it wasn't that serious. I wasn't that great. And I also took, I don't know if they still offer it, the IDC course. It was like the interdisciplinary something. I don't know what the C stands for or the D, but that was really fun. There was like 5 people in that class. And I really loved chem and math, and that's all I knew. I know that in at least Appleby was like a pretty restricted selection of classes you could take, except in senior year. And in my final year, I was like, I want to take all STEM classes. And I took like 2 non-STEM. One was like strings, and the other was like English. And that was honestly my favorite year. So I feel like I'm very biased. And when I went to college, I was forced to take less STEM classes because you had to do like distribution requirements for liberal arts education. But within my major, I took like this. So we have standard classes you have to take, and then like some other classes you could like select. So I took the ones I was interested in, and with like yeah, with other stuff, I mentioned that I took logic, which was really fun. These are just like the classes I took. It was like pretty standard. And I like that in STEM you could really explore anything you wanted. There were like you could pursue the standard classes and then like so many more like of your favorite different types. And it's just like an opportunity to figure out what you liked, what you didn't like, what you wanted to pursue. And it helped me figure out like what I liked in CS. Did I like coding? Did I like the hardware, etc.? And I also got involved with some of the student clubs. There was like this Google Developer Student Club that like each school could have, and that was cool. Yeah, just like very standard. But in university, what something to like know that if you want to pursue STEM and you want to do more of an industry route is that it's not just your grades that matter, it's your experience. So like outside of school, outside of your majors, you have to be constantly networking, meeting with people who are like well versed in these fields, and trying to see if you can like get referrals, etc. And interview prep, oh my gosh, like school does not teach you any of that. That's all on your own. What a pain, but we got through it. And yeah, just like even learning how to talk to people in interviews, like things like that. It's just something you don't learn in class. I feel like in school I was always like, oh, I just need to do well to get a high grade, I just need to finish the assignments. But you really have to push yourself and take the initiative to pursue what you want, because after college, if you don't want to pursue more school, it's like that's it, you're going to start work, you need to build that experience in college. So kind of nerve-wracking, but yeah, that's basically my involvement. To Elaine.
Yeah, 1 second. I just have one question. Can you tell us a little bit more about kind of the liberal arts education in comparison to other universities and how
Mhm.
that kind of made a difference in STEM or in any other major? Because I know there's another set of requirements that's different from like a normal university.
Yeah, absolutely. So at my school, I hmm, so Wellesley does this thing where you can also take classes at MIT. And that was like a cool experience too, because I feel like the classes are structured very differently. At Wellesley, the STEM classes are like pretty interactive in that like anyone can ask any question during the class because there's only 20 people or even less. And that aspect was cool because you could explore like way outside of what you were getting taught. If you had questions, like the professors are super well versed, and it was really helpful. And you can also learn about other students' questions. And having that environment was allowed you to be open about your questions. Like I never felt dumb asking a question, and that I think was like really valuable, because in high school I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I should be asking this right now. I don't know if I'm taking too much of people's time. And that kind of STEM environment just allowed me to thrive a lot more. I felt like I was making the most of my experience, and the content is like there's like a structured content, but you could also like explore outside of class. If there were things that you're interested in, you could do research with your professor. I know a lot of people who like reach out to professors in the class, and like if there was something they were really interested in, they could write a thesis, like anything that they wanted to do. And compared to a normal college, definitely, like I said, the class size itself. And also, I think the one thing that I don't like as much is that Wellesley is not really industry based or industry focused. When I was taking like classes at MIT, they were a lot more like helpful in my internship experience. It was like testing your code, things like that, that are super important, but like we don't really learn in my classes. Or like just like how to prepare for an interview, how to think in that way. For us, it was just like data structures, etc. That wasn't really catered to pursuing like industry. That was like on your own. So I think if you want to pursue like master's or PhD or things like that, having a liberal arts education could be really helpful. But if you want to like go straight into industry, like I would recommend the other route. It's just dependent on how you learn. Like having a smaller classroom was really beneficial to me. But if you like that, just the professor talking and like just writing down your notes, learning by yourself, that's like totally up to you. So does that help?
Yes, that was
Okay,
perfect. That was
cool,
great.
cool, cool.
Okay. Now on to Eileen.
I would definitely double down on what Sherry said about taking more initiative, because in college, like just completing homework and just doing like just mastering the class material is definitely not enough. If you want to go into industry, like you gotta lead code, you gotta like practice quant, you gotta like do all of these stuff. If you want to do research, that's like you're basically signing yourself up to be to become a professional student without a teacher. So I think just like the nature is very different. I guess I can talk about how I was involved in STEM in high school and how that compares to like how I am involved now. In high school, I was fairly involved with the math club at school. I also did a ton of competitions outside of school. But that was just like what I had access to because that's like math was the one thing that like I didn't need a lab, I didn't need a teacher, I could just sit down and look at the textbook and I could read on my own. But in college, I find that there's a lot more venues to learn about things that you never had exposure to before. There's like the major of nuclear science, like I'm sure nobody like studied nuclear science when they were in high school. So I think there's a lot of exciting opportunities, and there's never like a fear that like coming to college, there's like a lot of people that have done coding, but there was not like a pressure that you should have done what you want to major in to be able to major in that thing that you're interested in, which I think is really cool. There's no like real barrier of entry. I'm fairly involved with research in university. I guess it's another layer of initiative taking and asking yourself very hard questions about why you like what you like and what you really like, because you really are signing yourself up to do this thing that you will probably do for the rest of your life. So it's better be something that you enjoy. It involves a lot of people tend to think of research as like just this academic work, but it actually takes more skills than doing the work itself. I would say like being able to talk about research is almost as important as doing research itself, whether to like an external audience, to stakeholders, or to your advisor. And those are like very important skills to gain that isn't like formulated anywhere else. I hope this is helpful. Maybe this is like too far for people to think of today.
I mean, yeah, personally, I'm not going to STEM, but like, yes, research, big thing. So I personally found that really helpful. I have one question. Like, to what extent do you think the research contributed to you finding your passion? And have you had instances where like you tried something, but it wasn't what you realized you thought it was, and maybe it wasn't as interesting?
Oh yeah, for sure. I have tons of examples for that actually. I think I guess I would answer the question for both why research and why particularly research that I'm doing. Um, why research is that I did an internship at a company and I didn't really get the point of it. I don't like being told what to do, and um the company that I worked at, like after doing it, I was like, if I were to work in industry, that would probably be one of my best options. And I still didn't enjoy it. So one day I will have to find a way out of it. So maybe this just isn't for me. And simultaneously, like I talk to friends who are very involved in research and they have this sense of like fulfilling like goal in life that I really wanted to also have. So that's when I began to think more carefully about research. Research that I didn't like, yes, of course. So machine learning is really popular and really sexy. Everybody wants to work on machine learning, but majority of the machine learning that people work on is more applying this method that people have already invented on my data set that I collected from someone else. So the idea is like, it's novel, but it's not so novel. I work on this project my freshman year. It's more of an interdisciplinary project that applies AI just in a way that is explainable to solve some like social science problems. It was really cool. we got very cool results, but I just didn't see myself working on it forever. Same goes for like some other project that I've worked on. But the thing is that every time you work on a project that you didn't like, it helps you to think about what in this project is that you didn't like and why you didn't like it, and what about this project you enjoyed and why you enjoyed it, and go further from there. Does that help?
Yes, sounds great.
Sweet.
Okay. Next on to Jane.
Yeah, so yeah, I'll just briefly go over my high school era as well. So for my high school, we had a very limited selection. I was allowed to choose two out of the three courses for STEM, which is chemistry, biology, and then physics. So I took biology and chemistry, and then I took summer school for physics. And then like other activity includes like math competition, like computer science competition, and then like math fair, science fair, robotics club. Um, I guess it is really like what other people already said, like options are quite limited, and it's really like it's offered to you, and then you pick a few that interest you the most and that fits into your schedule. Because yeah, high school students still have to, I guess the number one priority at the time was applying for university, but right now I guess it's really like if I was like running among like following a track right now, I'm like in a open field. I see like a few signs, I can feel like the wind or whatever, I can see like what's behind me, what's like in front of me, but there's really not a path for me to follow right now. I think there's a lot of like exploration on myself and a lot of initiative. um I think, yeah, right now I'm my second year, and last year I had a conversation with my friends about like what should we do, should we just follow the curriculum and then just have fun after school, and then just because there's just so much more time. And then we were just talking about this could possibly and potentially be like the time at our peak of like our intelligence and our like energy, and then that's really like inspire us to have more initiative in terms of exploring. So I started to do things that I thought it wouldn't really interest me, but sometimes the results are interesting. I think, oh yeah, this could be an option from now on, and then sometimes just this is absolutely not gonna be like in my book. I'm not gonna consider this at all. So I think it's really about the first year, maybe and second year exploration, and then from that on, maybe like more in depth. Because but I personally right now I don't really know because I am still like at the crossroad deciding where to go right now. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, I think a lot of people in this seminar are at a crossroad. For most of us, is like university time. Yeah, we're kind of at the end of the track you're talking about, almost at the open field. Okay, passing it on to Serena.
Yeah, so for me, just talking a little bit about what I did in high school. I was actually fortunate enough to do some applied STEM stuff, including research. So I was able to do like wet labs. So like actually in the lab running like cell experiments, computational, not really computational, but like physically, like, if any of you guys have like watched any movies of people working in the lab, like wearing your lab coats, like holding my pipettes and like doing stuff. Yeah, I did that in high school. But in addition to that, primarily high school, like a lot of people before mentioned, it's very much sort of like grades and class focused. And so I did, besides like research, I did a lot of bio competitions, including like science fairs through my research, and then just like classes, like in general, really cool STEM classes, but like very basic. So like your, biology, your chemistry, physics, like etc. And I think the main difference between STEM in high school compared to STEM in university is that, like I think Elaine mentioned before, university STEM is completely different and more I think Elaine and Sherry both talked about this, but I might just repeat what you guys said. It's a lot more like hands-on and doing stuff in the real world. So maybe like it's also a byproduct of being at Stanford, but a lot of people here focus more on doing your own thing. So if you're, for example, interested in computer science, people are, working on your own projects. They're like doing research with certain groups, or they're working at startups or even doing their own startups. So it's completely different from like, say, taking a class in like computer science, but it's also about like creating and doing your own thing and creating like this really, really cool project with the skills that you learned in class. And so I think that's what I found most different between high school and university. And I will say the one exception to that I've seen is pre-med, because a lot of the things that you'll be doing in university is like studying, like, preparing for, say, the MCAT, or like getting like good at memorizing biology, chemistry, physics, like, etc. So I will say that like in terms of more like creative like professions in STEM, like this might be a very like hot take, but I'd say like CS like students here are like very like much like out there creating new apps and stuff, whereas like a lot of my pre-med friends that I know are out there studying really hard. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. And let's move on to the next question. So Sherry?
Okay, yeah, sure. So also after hearing everyone speak, I just have something to add on to like my previous question. Sorry. Like one benefit of liberal arts education is that like a lot of people don't just major in STEM or like humanities. I know a lot of people who are doing both, like so sociology and math is like one of the like really cool ones that I liked. And there was like psych and math, and there's like CS and anthropology, just like a lot of different, anyways, just wanted to mention that. But onto this question. I feel like this is a little repeat of what I said earlier, but in high school, the only thing I had to worry about was doing well in classes and like getting into college. Like everything else beyond that, that's a later issue. And the courses are standardized, and the teachers provide a lot more structure and guidance throughout your high school career. But in university, again, it is really on you to take that initiative and like manage your time and seek help. I remember not wanting to go to office hours because I felt like I could figure it out all by myself. But after I did, that was like one of the best ways to learn. It's a lot faster. The professors will help you, like, or the TAs will help you like explain what's the best way of figuring that out. And so yeah, and having smaller class sizes, that was really nice. And I was very lucky to have that. But when I did start to do recruiting and even like working, I TA'd for like some of the semesters. They were all extracurriculars on top of classes, and I felt pretty unmotivated to do them. I was like, I just want to do all my classes, like that's all I want to handle. But there's a lot more because like you actually have to start figuring life out now, which is kind of scary. And in first year, I didn't know what I was doing at all. I wasn't gonna major in CS. And a tip that I would give is that if you already have career aspirations in mind and you know like the research or internships you want to pursue, check out like those internships that are on LinkedIn or whatever, and see what kind of majors they recommend you having. And I did that in first year of summer, and that honestly changed my like direction. That's why I added the CS major. Like that was really helpful for me. And yeah, you just really have to push myself. In high school, like I feel like I was able to do well because everyone is working towards like college. Everyone's like working really hard, you know what you have to do. And in my school, like everyone's in different majors. My best friends are like econ or neuroscience majors. Everyone's doing different things. And so you don't have that push. If you're someone like me, like you need that push, then it's like hard without it. And yeah, so this is the end. Your next goal is getting a job that requires internships, not just good grades. So really, I had to like use my alumni network, like meet a ton of people, which was really helpful. Spend time prepping for interviews, talk to people in the field, and don't be afraid to ask for help, because that's like what I was really afraid of, and it ended up being my biggest regret, probably not doing that sooner. And also maximize your summers, like take summer classes if you want to graduate earlier or just have more experience. Do research, internships, anything like that, to just like to get more experience. Like that's honestly the biggest thing you need, especially if you're pursuing computer science and you want to go into industry. Grades like don't matter. Barely any companies check for that. It's really just on you to like take that step to network and get experience. But yeah, school-wise, I think there's not too much difference, or like it, because you have to figure out how much course load you're having in a liberal arts education. You decide what courses you're taking every semester and how you're going to complete your degree. So you're kind of managing that. Make sure you plan that out well if you know like what you're going to do, and not to have like an insanely heavy workload every semester. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, sounds great. They sound very practical. Definitely keep that in mind 2 years down the road. And I'll pass it to Elaine.
I think the biggest challenge I faced in college is that I didn't know what I want to do with myself, because there's like way too many options in front of me, and different people have different goals, and there's like no one clear path. So in high school, there's like very clear, you take like Calc 1, Calc 2, and then you take like Beyond Math, something like that. But there's like only one class you can take, and that is all. And you take all of the other stems, and that was what I did. Um, there was nothing I could choose from anyways. But like when you go to college, you have to decide, like, do I take algorithms first? Do I take like coding first? Do I take like probability first? Do I like want to build up like more foundation in like algebra, or like I don't know, topology, like whatever else? There's way too many options, and everybody is doing a different thing. There's also the really crazy people that will take incredibly difficult classes their first semester and do incredibly well, and they seem to never go to class. And it's like a quite big phenomenon. I think this is also correlated that I go to this crazy school that gathers all these crazy people. But I think what I did initially was that I just kind of followed what other people did. Like, this is a big class, everybody takes it, everybody talks about it, so at least I can find people to work with. Um, but at some point I started realizing like there are things that I enjoy more than others, and that's kind of when like this challenge, I guess, is kind of over, to decide what I actually want to do and not just follow around.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you. And on to Jane.
Yeah, okay. The biggest challenge. I guess it's like the analogy, the metaphor that I had early on, the track versus the field, because right now you have to, so it really puts a lot of pressure on like making decision and then how to manage your time properly. So there's decision fatigue, and then there's like the directionless the feeling of feeling like don't know where to go. So like or like last week I was like managing my midterm and then my interviews, and then there's interviews on the same day as my midterm, and then like should I spend time like do one more question, or should I spend more time doing my interview prep, or should I maybe like do more research on this like AI conference that I'm going. So I think, but that is also like the fun part about being in university, or like, and also like the commitment you have with your like family and friends. um so I think time management is definitely one thing. And then the content, I think the content is I guess depends on curriculum, it is quite different. So like yeah, it's quite the contents are quite different. I guess it was really more like practice based and computational for like the when I was in high school. So I just have to maybe do questions from 2004 to 2020, and then I'll see the pattern like every 3 years the question is the same. um I guess right now it moves faster, and then it requires more understanding, and then yeah, you really have to reject a few opportunities and then go sit down and back to your room, and then like in the silence and the silent quiet area, and then just study, and then just yeah, and then just study. Yeah, I guess that's the two challenge, like the content, and then also like you have to make decision and balance how to and figure out how to allocate your time properly.
Okay, thank you. And on to Serena.
Yeah, so my biggest challenge was really similar to what Elaine was talking about. In particular, that um, you really have so many options once you get to college, that you can really try almost anything you want. And I think I know this is really different from MIT, but Stanford is notorious for having grade inflation. Their STEM classes are not as hard as, say, what you would expect them to be after getting into college. So a lot of like taking classes was like really easy. And so you really wanted to figure out, well, what did you really care about? What do you want to spend your whole life working on? What is this? What do you want to change the world with, right? Like which career do you want to go down? And it's really like a huge monumental life decision. And I think that was the biggest challenge for me because like I mentioned earlier in my introduction, I dabbled in so many different things because I genuinely didn't know what I wanted to do. It was really great that I ended up figuring out that maybe like what I originally wanted to do, which is pre-med, is maybe like the best fit for me. But like I mentioned, I tried software engineering, I tried like venture capital, so working in finance. I tried a lot of different things, and it really led me to sort of figuring out that maybe like I should just stick with pre-med. But that's also the really great thing about college is that like you have so many options to explore. It's like the time in your life where you get to be at a crossroads where you get to sort of pick what you want to be doing for the rest of your life. And okay, I think I lagged there, but I don't know if you guys heard me, but I think the other thing I wanted to mention is that in high school, like the way I decided on biology is just because like I was good at it and it interested me more so than other subjects. And so it was sort of like, well, to get good at this, to get into college, that was like my sort of end goal. Whereas in college, you're thinking about like, what do I really want to do that can make an impact on my life and the lives of people around me?
Okay, thank you. And then we'll go on to the last question, which is more centered on being a woman, a minority in STEM. I'll pass it to Sherry.
Yeah, I think in high school or like before college, a lot of the classes I took in CS and math were pretty male dominated. In my IDC class, so like all four of the other students were male. And I guess it was just like I'm not sure. I think it was okay, but it's because I knew them pretty well. But it was like I don't know, that could possibly deter people away from like taking these majors, not feeling like they're seen in these kind of environments. And I didn't really think too much about it. My CS classes were like that too. But it was just like that kind of environment. And when I went to Wellesley, it was like all those restrictions were gone. Like everyone around me, like we're doing the same things, and they were all women in STEM, and it was like pretty empowering to have that. I felt like my voice was kind of being heard. I could ask any questions I wanted, and it felt really supportive. Like everyone just wanted to help you succeed. I don't know if that's like being a woman in STEM or whatever, but I just kind of felt that kind of environment. And there are also like benefits to being a woman in STEM. There are a lot of networking events that are catered to women, like especially in CS. And even in high school, I did this like catalyst program at Waterloo for girls, and that was like super memorable. It was so fun. And yeah, and I feel like in my classroom, I just feel really comfortable talking. And these networking events, you can see these women in higher positions of power. And I feel like that's also really inspiring and learning from their stories, how they got there. And yeah, so I don't know if I like really overcame something. I think I just got lucky in like going to a school that was so empowering for women and just gave me so many opportunities to like to network with these women who are doing really well in STEM and the things that I wanted to do. And it was like, oh, I could do this too. Like this is, this is something I could pursue. And yeah, so seeing the alumni like succeed so well, it's like really inspiring. And also like imposter syndrome is so real. Just getting experience and talking with people. It's not that everyone else is smarter. It's just like they had a head start. So like don't feel restricted because of that. Cause I know like I went through that so many times. And yeah, that's what I would say.
I want to ask about because you said you took a lot of courses, well, not a lot, but you said you took courses at MIT and you also did internships, and
Mhm.
those are co-ed. Well, obviously MIT is co-ed, but I'm assuming your internships are also co-ed. And did you feel like any difference of being all women's college and then taking courses at MIT, which is a lot bigger, and it's like, yeah, because obviously CS is very male dominated.
Mhm. Definitely. I think it's just for the classes I took, they had like, I'm sure Elaine could talk more about this than I can, but they have like these recitations that you like have a smaller group where you do like problem sets or just like activities together in class. And I think it was just I felt like I didn't really want to talk as much. Like not a lot of people were asking questions. I don't know if that's like just like kind of the environment.
No one asked questions.
Right? Like everyone's just working.
You're kind of just supposed to sit there and get through it.
Okay, because like I'm working with my friend and we're both like, what is going on? And then he's like, I don't know. But let's just like pretend that we know what we're doing that. Like, and I was like, okay. And I don't know if everyone else is like knowing what they're doing because like I have no idea what's going on. Anyways, like no one speaks, so it's just kind of intimidating. But in my like Wellesley classes, like so many people are asking questions. It could be a good thing and a bad thing because sometimes like you can't even cover all the content because people are so curious all the time. So it's like that kind of environment. Like in one of my CS classes, it was like purely question based. Basically, we read a paper and we do like discussions on it. And that was like a CS class. And in my internships, like in my past two internships, I was the only female on the team. And like I didn't feel it too much. Like I was like suddenly in one of the meetings, I'd be like, oh, like I'm the only girl here. Like, but it didn't impact me too much. I think they were still very supportive and like as long as you do like you know what you want and do like networking with people, like it's not as restrictive as it was in the past, I presume. Yeah.
Right, that's really great to hear. Okay, on to Elaine.
I think in high school, I didn't think about it too much. Um, just because like that's what I would expect. But in college, so you have this women problem, and then on top of that, there's the college general imposter syndrome because everybody suddenly is so much smarter, and you're like the dumbest person in the world. Um, and this is especially like prominent in a field that is very like tech bro-y in CS and very like heteronormative, if that makes sense. So I feel like I didn't realize this until much later that I kind of like downplayed myself because I thought, oh, like everybody who's successful and everybody who's so much smarter than I am is like very tech bro-y. Like I am definitely not that. So therefore I cannot be successful. Like this is a very harmful thinking that I think a lot of girls implicitly have. How did I overcome it? Well, I think I started realizing it when I worked with a female PI. Well, I worked with a female advisor for research. She is like she works in this field that is first of all very male dominant, but she's also very down to the earth. Like when she doesn't understand questions or she doesn't understand she like I was say my idea and she's like I've never heard of this before just because like she's never worked on this before. She would actually just say like I don't know what this is even though it's like something incredibly simple. And seeing her being so successful and still ask like really dumb questions makes me think like this is not it's not impossible to be successful as a woman in STEM. So I started to reflect on like how in the past I have put myself down because of all this harmful thinking.
Okay, thank you. That was really enlightening to hear. And on to Jane.
Yeah, I think definitely add on to that. I think I think in our school still like the female to male ratio is not that great and not that encouraging, but yes, there's definitely more like girls in our field right now. I think yeah, I remember like right now like something really awkward when I was in high school. I didn't took computer science when I was in high school, so when I was at I'm not sure, I think it was I was some other event and then there was this guy coming up to me and be like, "Oh, how many language like do you know?" I was like, yeah, I speak Mandarin and English." And then French, and then it turns out they were talking about like I don't know Java and then like Python. Yeah, so it's really awkward at the time, and I still think about that sometimes. But I think one way to overcome that is definitely to get to know more people in the field, like attending events like such as like this seminar, and then also just there's other more like a women focused STEM opportunities and initiative. That's one way to another way to get over it. And I have another like tiny struggle that might not be as relatable to the younger kids right now as like when I was applying for universities, a lot of like uncles and other like male relatives just say stuff like, oh yeah, you're just a girl, and then just pick something easy, and then really what matters like who you're picking as your boyfriend and your husband and stuff like that. And then it really sometimes is like not that encouraging to hear. And then sometimes when you just want to slack off and my parents just like, yeah, sure, like whatever, you're a girl, just don't live don't like push yourself to the dead end, just like calm down. And then I think that really is, well, it is good that you're gonna relax and chill a bit, but I don't just want girls to just settle down and like relax and just wait someone to marry you and then give you a car and a house and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's unfortunately still like very relevant, at least like in like my household and like some of the friends I talk to, definitely it's still a thing. And yeah, because like even though I'm not pursuing STEM, like I have been told that like, oh yeah, focus on the humanities, because it's like it's just because you're a girl, like not because of who I am or my passions, but because of my gender, I should be doing like certain majors. Yeah. And passing it on to Serena.
Yeah, so for me, I've really seen the gender disparities for certain career professions in STEM. So particularly in, I guess, finance and then also in computer science. Um, so like I'll give like a couple of examples. So the first is like when I attended a hackathon recently for AI, and almost everyone there were like male, like it was like 30 people, like there were like 3 girls and like everyone else was a guy. And it was like I usually get along really well with guys, probably because I've been in that environment for a long time. But I think one of the major struggles that you have in that sort of environment, or that I particularly have, is that like um that was, and this was mentioned before, but that it's a feeling of being inadequate, like when all these like guys and even girls have like insane like resumes, they have done so many amazing things, and you're here, you're like, well, I don't think that I as like I should be in this position. Like there should definitely be people who are more deserving. But I think the way I've overcome this sort of fear of being inadequate and not like enough is that the piece of advice I received from a friend, which is that not everyone always starts the same point in life. Like there are some guys who have done really amazing things, and they were at this hackathon, who have like worked on CS their entire lives. And yes, you're like a girl, but you're also like started like your freshman year, you're really interested and you've been working a lot in this field. And it doesn't really matter that they're better as long as you keep working towards it. And so this sort of advice helps me like sort of get through the feeling of like not being good enough in a certain field. The second example was in venture capital. It's not really, so I know this is less for venture capital, but more for other fields in finance where the industry is super male dominated. And in my experience, I've seen like women who are very, very successful at like the very high ups in terms of venture capital. And I've seen like this trend between like people, like women who have high status in like venture capital firms. They all act in a certain way. And I can most like best describe it as very like dominating, like they need to assert themselves. They often talk about their accomplishments, and they talk about their knowledge a lot, like what they think, and they have a very professional attitude, and they don't let other people walk over them. And when I first like sort of observed this, like the typical like finance, like women in finance sort of like stereotype, I was a bit sad, but also it was like these women who were really successful at like the top of the hierarchy, the bureaucracy, for these like really like huge venture capital organizations. And so I realized that in certain situations, like women do have to adapt in order to be the most successful. I'm not saying that this is the right way to go about it, but I am also saying that like because I noticed this and because I didn't think that this was like venture capital, like this is one of the reasons why I didn't ultimately choose venture capital, is because like I saw this sort of phenomenon and I realized that like this wasn't really the kind of person that I wanted to become. And so that was what drew me away from like being a woman in finance. But I know a lot of incredible women who are pursuing finance pathways. They're amazing and they're also like doing their own thing and sort of trying to change the field. And so it's been really cool seeing like the progress of really amazing women impacting like their careers in different ways. So yeah.
Yeah, I think these stories are always very inspiring, and women in STEM is being talked about a lot more now than before, and I think it's kind of the first step to just eliminating these stereotypes. Okay, and we are going to move on to audience questions, and if the audience can send their questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of Zoom. Yes, that would be great. Okay, so we will start with the first one. What advice would you give to younger students who are unsure about their passion in STEM, such as course selections in high school and also post-secondary choices? If we can go in the same order, and if like you don't you don't feel like you have to speak, like you don't have to speak, you can pass question on.
Hmm, I think in high school, like I want to say you still have time to figure it out, like depending on what year you are. Um, I'm like trying to think like what I did to like figure out what I wanted to take and like how I was really sure this is what I wanted. I guess I was never really sure. The only thing I was sure about is I liked math and I didn't like bio. Oh my gosh, I struggled in bio so much. Serena, like so impressive. Anyways, I knew what I didn't like and I explored everything like else. I'm not a huge humanities person. But if you are unsure about your passion in STEM, I would definitely recommend like taking other courses. Like don't be so limited by like the idea that STEM is so like up and coming. Like it definitely is, but there's like other things you can do too. It's just like I feel like society is always like, oh, like STEM is so great. Like this is what you can do with it. So if you can explore, if you have the option to in high school, like try to explore other things if you already know what you don't like. And in like post-secondary, I guess I got lucky with like liberal arts because you can still explore what you want to do. Like I clearly didn't end up doing chemistry, and that's because I got to explore other classes that I like wanted to do, and I knew through my experiences like this is what I don't like, this is what I do like in those classes. I don't think like anyone has it really, or maybe that's just like personal. I don't think I had it like really figured out what I wanted to do. I was like, oh, maybe I could go into grad school, I could teach. Like that was something that I was interested in. And it's just like you don't have to know what you're doing. Like I don't feel like everyone else knows what they're doing because like I don't think they do. Just keep exploring like things you want. You can always change. It's like not too late. I know people in their junior year, which is like third year of college, and they were changing majors. It's like it's still open to you. And even after post-secondary school, like I know I met a lot of engineers and like managers who didn't go to school for like engineering. Some of them didn't even go to school. Like one of them did music and they like waitress and was like a restaurant manager, and now they're like a huge engineering manager at a big company. Like everyone has different paths to where they can get like I feel like CS is really nice because you can take a boot camp and you can like still get into that. It's just like all about your experience. So don't put too much pressure on yourself. Take classes that you think you might like. And that's like really broad advice, but I hope that helps.
Elaine, do you have something to add?
I think Sherry said this really well. Take classes that you think you might be interested in and think about after you take the class, think about what you liked about it and where you would like to go with that.
Yeah, I guess my advice is firstly, like, don't think like too far ahead. I have friends who plan everything out like in advance, like 4 years in advance. I'm going to take this and then take that, and then I'm going to do research with this prof, and then like just like a semester down, they change their plan like entirely. So like yeah, just keep your decision open and then don't think too much and not have too much pressure when you make decision. And in terms of like course selection, I guess is to first eliminate what you don't like and then also like try to incorporate selection that will have like that allows you to make more decision down the road. For example, if I require, well, if I need like maybe like 2 or 3 courses for this program or this major, and then these courses can also apply to like the engineering courses. And then if I want to do humanities, I still have these courses. Like try to think about like the Venn diagram when you do your course selection. Yeah, that's sort of how I did course selection when I was in high school. In terms of like post-secondary, I don't have much to offer as I am still figuring that out. Yeah.
Awesome. My advice is actually to just try it out, like outside of class, for example, like extracurriculars. Like if you're interested in anything in STEM, like, make a plan of what you want to do. Like if you're interested in biology, like do you want to like do like a research project in there, or like what exactly about biology interests you? And then like say you want to work at a bio competition or something, and like I would like try reading a bio textbook, get like really into like biology outside of school and see if that's your thing. And if that's not, then that's totally fine. You could choose something else. And then I would reflect your course selections in terms of like what really like it interests you and what you're really passionate about, like outside of like say an educational setting. And so I think it's really about like to find your interest, you really have to explore. There's no shortcut. The easiest way would just be to like choose something that you're good at, and I know a lot of people who've done that, me in particular. And so like that could be one solution, where you find that what you're good at is also what you really care about, is also what you can be great at one day. But like for a lot of people, if you don't know, like explore, like try different things. I would do it outside of class, maybe take a bio course like on your own hand, if that's possible. And then later like switch to that in like course selection, etc.
Okay, that sounds great. So, we just have a really short poll about the breakout rooms because there's quite a few questions, and we just want to know if the audience like still want the breakout rooms, or if we can just, keep it this way for the rest of the seminar. So, first question is done. Okay. Yes, the poll is launched. And if you guys can just like take your time to answer it. Okay, so while we wait for that, I'm just going to move on to the next question. So, as students in STEM and the very people learning about the advancements of AI, are these are there fears that AI will take over what you want to pursue after college? It's an interesting question.
Are we doing in order again? This is the vibe.
Yes, that's
Okay.
right.
Good question. I think there definitely is. I could be wrong. I personally am scared because like I know people who do their assignments just like by tapping and don't do that, but like they just like, you know, tapping to like make me a program that does this, and then it will like create a program for you, or like debugging. Like that's helpful, right? Like debugging your code. Asking ChatGPT to do that is like super, like they're basically better than me. But it is scary, but I am hoping that like that's far in the future. That's also kind of scary, but I try not to think about it. I'm like I don't know if you guys have been hearing these tech layoffs right now, like it's really scary, and there's definitely fears in that, but I think just like maybe try to have a backup plan if you do plan on pursuing that, something that could have like, you know, these kind of things. What I tell myself is if I get laid off, I'm just gonna go back to school. And like, yeah, just like maybe having something like that. But I would say don't like stress about it too much for now. I think there's like always gonna be jobs open for people, and like in STEM, I feel like especially in engineering, like you're the people making these computers or whatever and doing these kind of programmings. I mean, ML is, I guess, really helpful because you can be like training these machine learning models. Um, yeah, I just try not to think about it, which is probably not the best way, but yeah.
I think today, like at the stage that AI is at today, I am not worried that it's going to take over what I want to do. I totally understand, like in tech, this is quite stressful. I think AI today is not good enough to do what I want to do, and what I want to do actually requires human beings, and this is true to a lot of fields. Um, but in tech especially, is a little precarious at this moment. I do have friends who are in research that think maybe like 5 to 10 years down the road, the research scene will be very different because of ChatGPT and whatever else. Um, I personally can't foresee that. I believe it will be very different, but I don't have a very good like answer to what it's gonna look like.
I guess my answer is, uh, I sort of, yeah, I try to avoid thinking about that as well. But yeah, I do try to, you know, learn more about, I guess my way is to learn more about it and then to see how it is, see what is the industry doing with it and what is like the research doing with it right now. And also I just guess think about the bright side. It is quite helpful at times. Like it really like saves you a lot of time, and then like it cuts off like repetitive task. And then I guess maybe if I do, yeah, like get laid off, I can. Although I don't even have a job yet. What am I talking about? Yeah, I can just study something else. I'm sure there is something else that I want to study as well, like other than, and then like I can live probably till like 100 years old, and then I don't mind trying new things as well. Yeah.
I genuinely think we're at like a really exciting time where like there's so many cool foundation models being developed for artificial intelligence. It's really interesting to see where the future heads. And for me, it's more of like excitement in seeing like what people can build right now with AI. Like people have been making, like Google Slides, but you type in a prompt and it generates your slides for you. Like a lot of these really fun, useful, quirky tools that you can use AI for. And I think that's really fun. And I've also found ChatGPT to be incredibly useful. So I'm like actually all here for the the AI boom, but also I think that as long as like there needs to be like advancements in any field, like there won't like if you like have the sort of persistence to go about being at like the top in your field or like working towards the best, I think there will always be job opportunities that will be there for you. For me, I'm not particularly worried because Like, I don't think doctors will be taken over by AI anytime soon. I think AI in medicine is still relatively underdeveloped, and there's a lot of work that could be done there. But I definitely think that like it is a fear for like some people who are working in like the humanities, like artists, like after Dolly, or like other different professions, and that definitely is a concern. But I also think it's a really exciting time. But this is also coming from really privileged standpoint as someone who is watching these cool things come out. So I'm all here for it, but I know how it could be like threatening to other people.
Okay, thank you guys. Next question for Sherry, putting you on the spot. At Appleby, what are some of the courses that you took to find your interest in STEM, and how did you know that it was the direction that you wanted to go once you hit your passion?
Good question. I think in like the first 2 years at least at Appleby were like very following their guide. Like this is what you had to do. And like I guess like through that I found things that I didn't want to do. Like I realized humanities was not for me. I am not huge on writing essays. And then in grade 11, I like went into capstone, and I'm very grateful for that experience because like I got to do research at capstone. But yeah, writing is hard for me at least. And then some of the courses that I found that were really interesting is like again chemistry. I think AP chemistry was like one of my favorite courses that I've taken. Yeah, that sounds really nerdy, but love that class. IDC was great because it's like a very small environment where you could just pursue whatever you wanted. Like you learn the foundation of like Calc BC. I don't know if they still offer that class because I remember like it's depending on the class size, it's like, you know, but that class was really fun because small class environment, you got to do what you wanted. Like you could ask teachers to pursue a certain thing, and that was really helpful. And I also did physics, and that was a time. I do like physics. I think it's like similar like to like problem solving math in some ways, but I think chem was more for me. And when how did I know it's a direction that I wanted to go? Yeah, I just didn't have a strong feeling for humanities. And so I thought that would be what I would pursue. And it seemed like something practical for like future job aspirations as well. Like I was like, oh, this I know is gonna be able to like put me forward in my career. So hope that helps. But if you have any specific questions about classes, this was like 4 to 8 years ago. So not on top of my head, just like let me know if you want to ask.
Okay, sounds great. Uh, yes, the poll came out. IDC did not run this year, unfortunately, but it will run our year. It will run because yes, we have a bunch of math nerds, so it will happen. Next question. What STEM opportunities could I get involved in as a high schooler?
Okay, so again, super quick. A lot of major companies, just like in the industry field, like a lot of major companies have opportunities that you could like get involved with. I know Google has this thing where like as seniors you could go with them. Sorry, it's like slipping off the top of my head, but if you just search up like FANG company, like for high schoolers, they have a lot of experiences that you could apply for. It'd just be like an on-site event where you learn what they do and like you shadow them basically. But yeah, I'm like I didn't research too much into that. I could look more into it. But that's from the industry standpoint.
Elaine, do you have anything to add?
This is in no way to like funnel people into competitions, but I did competitions in high school. You just do it and you get better at it and you do more. Science fair is also a thing, I think. I've done science fair, but I think in high school for me, I didn't have access to like labs or anything like that. So like pretty much is limited to like what I'm able to do at home with a computer. So like this definitely is something to take into consideration. If you do have access to a lab, that's amazing. Be sure to take advantage of that.
I think for me, yeah, I don't remember what I did like on top of my head as well, but I remember like just like last week or 2 weeks ago, I have like a high school like a friend who came over to Waterloo. There's like a hackathon just for high schooler. Um, it's called like Jam Hack 7. Yeah, it's gonna probably happen again like next year, but maybe you guys can just search up like hackathon and high school and then certain university you want to go to. Maybe there's other opportunities like that.
For me, I would recommend, so in terms of STEM opportunities, there's a lot. I think like y'all mentioned before, you have hackathons, you have like different like competitions that you can enter for almost every single subject in STEM. There's like you could start your own STEM nonprofit. I know a lot of people who've tried that. You could work on your own personal projects in STEM. For example, in CS, really easy to get like a website up and work on your own stuff. And then harder classes, school clubs and organizations. There's probably a lot of them. Yeah, just there's a lot of opportunities. You probably just have to look for it, and yeah, find them.
Okay, sounds great. I think for the rest of the questions, we can just have anyone that wants to speak just jump in whenever so that Sherry's not like always going first. Change up the order a little bit. Okay, next question. What tips do you have for networking and finding opportunities?
Okay, I'll just share something really quick. So yeah, I'm kind of like scared when I like network with people because I'm think, oh, I'm so young, I don't have any value for other people. They don't have anything to learn from me. But then there's also a time where like younger people will come to me, and then I'm really happy to like share what I have to share. Not sure whether it's helpful, but I do just give them what I've got. I think change the perspective. I'm sure people who's like older than me would treat me the same. So yeah, so just maybe change your perspective, and then if you see someone who you would like to learn more from, just like shoot them a I don't know LinkedIn like or like a cold emailing, or maybe yeah, or just people in your school, just maybe like stop them and then do it politely. I'm sure they're happy to help. Yeah.
I think definitely like look in your school, like your Facebook groups or whatever your school uses, like usually have a lot of resources for networking. And my friend is in finance and like they do very intensive networking. And what I've seen is like they make like lists of people of who are in the roles that they are interested in, or like manage the roles that they're interested in, and they'll like connect with them on LinkedIn, send a message, be like, hey, like I'm really interested in this role, could you tell me a little bit more about your experience? And like having those conversations and like keeping those relationships, because that can help you in getting like referrals to a future role, or just like getting knowledge about if you're going to be interested in this, if like if yeah, if this is what you want to do, if just like things like that, how they got there. Just don't be like what Jane said, like don't be afraid to talk to people. If they don't respond, it's like, you know, like nothing bad is going to happen, and if they do, like that's great. That's one more person who's willing to help you and help you succeed. Yeah.
I think my biggest advice is it's not really the best. It's like looking through personal connections, but also cold emailing. I think a lot of people are much more receptive to cold emailing, cold DMs than you would think. And I guess like it's more about quantity. So if you really, for example, this is how sort of I discovered the lab. If you really want to work in it, a lab or do research, cold email, say like 100 professors near nearest university, and maybe like 3 or 4 will respond and maybe give you an opportunity. So it's about reaching out and finding your opportunities.
Okay, sounds good. Moving on to the next question. Have you seen sexism in the system when applying for jobs, applying for positions, etc.?
I actually think some companies make it easier for girls because they're actually doing so poorly in gender balance. But I also do have friends who are female identifying and then work at a company and think the environment is not forgiving. can work both ways.
Okay. And moving on, which STEM related activity did you enjoy the most during your high school summer? I like this question.
I actually have something to say about this one. I went to math camps when I was in high school. Again, super nerdy things, but it's pretty crazy to me that because I feel like in high school, at least like when I was in high school, there's this pressure like focus, don't do math, like why do you spend extra time to do academics when you can like go have fun, play some sports, whatever. I suck at sports. So like there's always this like pressure that you're like the other. Um but when I went to the summer camp, like everybody willingly spent time to do math. That was like the craziest idea to me. And that was when I realized, oh, like my passion is like acceptable. Is I'm not crazy. I'm not like the weirdest person in the world. I really, really enjoyed that. Um, so if you're interested in something that you know you're interested in it, it's probably true that somebody else in the world, there's probably a community that exists that is also interested in it. You should never feel like you couldn't pursue it because of some perceived pressure, whatever that may be.
So the summer, yeah, I think for one of my high school summer, it was when COVID was like pretty serious, so I couldn't really go anywhere. So I was stuck at home and then couldn't see my friends, couldn't be like going to vacation and stuff. So I wrote like a pretty basic paper on like some model, like the SIR model. It was pretty fun, like interesting, and to learn about like what was going on, sort of, and then also like do some more math, a little bit more math, and then also help me figure out I don't want to do research. Like I don't like writing papers at all. So yeah, it was pretty cool. Just maybe you can research about like the topics you're interested in, and then maybe like trying to dig deeper.
Okay. If we have no more answered, I think we can wrap it up just for this session because of the time limit. I'm actually not sure if this will cut off. Please don't cut off. Because the Zoom meeting is scheduled until 8:30. So if this cuts off at any moment, just it's okay. And yes, thank you speakers for speaking. It really means a lot to us that you can come and talk to us about these things. It's always different than to hear from a teacher's perspective, a parent's perspective who studied STEM, than from university students themselves who are really experiencing it and kind of in the midst of what's happening. And yeah, I mean, personally, even as a non-STEM major, I found this like super helpful and interesting. And I think this is not only really related to STEM, it can be related to, I think, all the majors, a lot of the skills you guys talked about, and how important it is to be proactive and time management and things like that. So, unfortunately, we didn't get to all the questions, but because of time, I think we will be stopping here. So thank you guys so much for coming, and thank you to the speakers as well for your time and the effort you have put into this. Okay, thank you. We will can leave or we'll end the meeting. Yeah.